Harvey Matusow, a famous liar. Was it true? A rat thing. I'm lying, of course. The lies I told in El Paso, a louse, a lying, backsliding louse. I'm lying, of course. Harvey Matusow, America's most notorious liar.
The trials of Harvey Matusow originated in another project I was doing about 15 years ago. I wanted to write a play about Senator McCarthy, and in the course of doing a lot of research for it, I came across this guy called Harvey Matusow, who had been involved with McCarthy, but also with all the red hunting people in America in the early 50s. He had an interesting political journey because he started off as a communist in post-war New York, and then he became a stool pigeon for the FBI.
All I had to do was drop a dime to the feds once in a while. For this, I got $40 a month.
So he became basically a professional witness, and he testified for all the, McCarthy's committee and also HUAC, and he testified in trials for the Justice Department. And then he put the cat among the stool pigeons because he then went public with the fact that he'd made up almost all of his testimony.
Now, of course, I'm a louse, a lying, backsliding louse who clearly has been got at by the Reds, either threatened with violence or paid off. Well, I could understand why they didn't want to believe me. It was, after all, a pretty big house of cards we'd built up.
The University of Sussex had all this stuff. In the late 60s, I think Matusow, when he was living in England, had done a lecture tour of British universities, and I guess he hit it off with the Sussex people because he gave them all his papers. They've got dozens and dozens of boxes there in the Special Collections Department, and over the course of a year or so, I went up there a couple of days a week and I just sat there going through the boxes, and Matusow was a man who kept everything, almost down to bus tickets. So, virtually his whole life is in these boxes.
Richard Nixon, Ike, Bobby Kennedy, Joseph Wells, Dean Acheson, Roy Cohen. The thing about McCarthy, the thing they never tell you, is this. Joe McCarthy was a son of a bitch, but he was the nicest son of a bitch you ever met.
It's set during Matusow's period of self-imposed exile, in the late 60s, finding himself unable to obtain absolution in America.
I don't see why I should have to talk about that stuff no more. McCarthyism. Does Nixon have to talk about it? No, why should I?
He just sort of upped stumps and put all his stuff on a freighter and came to live in England, and he was here for 7 years. I set it during that period so that he's looking back on the McCarthy years, but also you get a flavour of the rest of his life. Matusow constantly had all kinds of projects on the go, arts projects, filmmaking, music, publishing, so he was constantly on the go. He was like a force of nature.
Thank you. John Cage. John Cage. Can you believe it? That was Mr. John Cage. Okay, not John Cage, but, John Cage's manager.
I suppose his shamelessness is kind of intriguing. When he started informing on people, he just went for it, hammer and tongs.
People of America, I said, the Communist Party is using sex to reel in young people, your young people. Was it true? How should I know?
He did some undeniably very unsavoury things, and yet it's difficult not to sort of like him. People talk about the banality of evil, and I suppose that's what interests me.